This is a project about the space program, as it was lived and recorded by French aerospace journalist and collector Jacques Tiziou. He was my dad, so this is also a project about a son learning about his father through everything that he left behind. This is also a project about a crazy basement full of space junk, a giant collection of aerospace history and memorabilia. It's the strange inheritance that my father left me, and I need your help to get it to the right homes. Hi, my name's JJ, and when I was young I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to be an astronaut because my dad hung out with them all the time. I was surrounded by the space program from when I was a little kid, and names like Gene Cernan and Frank Borman weren't just celebrities that my dad interviewed, they were folks that he hung out with. Graduating classes of astronauts came over for dinner at our house. And so my dad was this crazy sweet guy who was obsessed with all things space program. He was in Florida when the astronauts were training. He got to test drive the moon buggy. He got rides on the MMU simulator, all the cool stuff. I didn't really get this when I was growing up, but his was the voice known throughout French-speaking countries for telling everyone about mankind's race to the moon. As it turns out, my space geek dad was a big enough deal that the Kennedy Space Center gave him a plaque on the wall, recognizing him as a chronicler whose career has provided knowledge, ideas, and inspiration worldwide. He wasn't just a journalist, though. He was also an archivist and a collector, and he held on to absolutely everything. And he built up what he called his museum, which was a giant collection of archives, press clippings, documents, collector's items, signed prints, tchotchkes, you name it, he had it. He wanted this to be my inheritance. Wanted for some of it to go to museums and archives, some of it to be sold on eBay, and some of it just to be shared with other space geeks who'd appreciate it. And I wanted to do an oral history project, recording all the stories that he had to tell about this exciting time. But it didn't quite all come together the way he'd hoped, because he was totally overloaded, and things just kept on piling up. He and I got a lot closer in the last few years, but then he got sick pretty suddenly and his life came to a close. And so now I'm left learning about my dad and this exciting era that he lived through the things that he left behind. And he left behind a lot of stuff. Even back in 1976, his collection was so big that he needed help moving it. And now we need your help to make sure that his stuff is saved from the trash and gotten to the right homes. I'd love for all these rocket fragments and spaceship bits and signed prints and patches and pins to go to space geeks who'd love them. And it's what he wanted. He'd package up his space bits into tiny little packages to share with others. But all the cool space junk was buried as his need to hold on to things slowly overtook his capacity to manage the collection. Over time, his hoarding tendencies overtook his space. I've been working for over a year to get all the extraneous stuff out of the way, and now it's ready for the space collection to take flight. I gave first access to folks from the NASA archives and the National Air and Space Museum. They've come through and dug through all the documents and decided to take about 140 boxes for the Air and Space Museum and another 40 boxes for the NASA archives. But that's just a tiny fraction of the document archive. The next step is finding a home for the rest of it, as well as for all of the collector's memorabilia and ephemera that he held on to. Along the way, we might have to try out some space food, and we'll certainly find some more funny pictures. So I invite you to join me in this strange adventure of space exploration. By becoming a backer of this project, you'll help me create a memorial to Jacques and save his collection. In exchange, you'll get a backstage look into the process and discoveries in his treasure trove, and a chance to be the first to know about opportunities where we sell stuff or give some of it away. And you can even get your own box of space junk as one of the Kickstarter rewards. You can become a project backer for as little as $1, so please sign up now. Then, spread the word to all of your Space Geek friends so that together we can send this collection off to its new homes. Thank you so much. It's gonna be stellar.